The second season of the 2003 show expanded the universe and backstories into places where not even the original Turtles had gone before. The climax of that season was a 4-episode saga that introduced the Battle Nexus and elevated Master Splinter to legendary skill levels. Oh, and it also established a connection between Splinter and Usagi Yojimbo. Join me today as I explore one of the finest stories in the 2003 universe, the Big Brawl. The Big Brawl had a setup episode earlier in the season titled The Ultimate Ninja. In that story, the Ultimate Ninja, also known as Ue-sama, was guided by a mysterious being into our world to challenge Leonardo to a duel. His original intention was to challenge Oroku Saki, but at the time, he was believed to have been killed by Leonardo. Therefore, if he wanted to obtain fame and glory, Leo was his next best option. The Ultimate Ninja marked Leo for a duel, a ritual that Splinter recognized immediately. Unfortunately, there was no time to explain things. Splinter knew that there was nothing they could do. The Ultimate Ninja and Leo would need to duel until only one was left standing. Leonardo ended up winning this challenge, but the Ultimate Ninja was a sore loser, and he used the dark arts to get revenge. His own father, the daimyo, stopped this attempt. After scolding his son, the daimyo recognized Leo's honor and congratulated Splinter on raising him. He explained that many generations ago, they had visited this dimension. People confused them for goblins or tengu, but they endowed a chosen few with the gifts of the art of ninjutsu. He then recognized the Turtles for honoring that tradition far better than his own son did. After this adventure, Splinter didn't explain what it was all about, but he promised that everything would be made clear over time. Now let's focus on the Big Brawl. It all started when the Turtles noticed Splinter had been training extra for over a month. Their curiosity was piqued the moment he announced he was leaving for a few days. The Turtles started identifying some patterns, as Splinter had done the same 3 years before. Curious and disobeying his instructions, they followed him to an alley, where they witnessed him chanting and opening a water portal, which he then crossed. Their master was gone, but Leo recognized the chant. Using UV light and chalk, Donnie replicated the symbols, allowing the Turtles to perform the entire ritual. Leo did the chant, and the Turtles crossed over to the other side. Upon arrival, they found themselves in a strange dimension with pinkish-purplish skies, wilderness, and ruins. Without any warning, 4 warriors appeared in front of them and attacked them. It was during this battle that Leo's swords were destroyed. After winning the fight, Gyoji, the Arbiter, announced that the Gomtai had been eliminated from the competition. However, after the originally intended competitors arrived, he realized there had been a mistake. In fact, he clarified that the only champion from Dimension 3rd Earth registered to fight was Hamato Splinter. Alarmed and confused, the Turtles eventually found their master fighting against a 4-armed giant named Djinn. Splinter won that match, and when Djinn realized the Turtles had no clue about their master's history, he proceeded to tell them the whole story. Through the centuries and across the multiverse, the greatest warriors have always searched for great challenges, and that was why the Battle Nexus was born. A place between dimensions where beings from a multitude of different worlds could pit themselves against worthy challengers. The Battle Nexus tournament, also known as the Big Brawl, was where a warrior could prove himself to be one of the most skilled martial artists of all creation. Splinter started visiting the Battle Nexus thanks to his sensei, Hamato Yoshi, who was a Battle Nexus champion. Following his example, Splinter also joined the competition years later. During the final battle in a tournament, Splinter fought against the fiercest of all the fighters, a being named Draco. It was during this battle that Splinter's leg was broken. This would be the secret origin of his reliance on a cane. But Splinter wouldn't forfeit. Instead, he quickly splinted his leg and continued the fight until he won, becoming a champion. Draco was a sore loser, and he sent some dark assassins to put an end to his life. Fortunately, a young Miyamoto Usagi witnessed the attack and hurried to help. Unfortunately, Draco overpowered them, and it was only thanks to the timely arrival of the daimyo that their lives were spared. Using his mystical war staff, he scared Draco away, and no one ever saw him again. Back to the present, the daimyo showed up to greet Splinter, glad to see his sons competing as well. However, Splinter was actually disappointed that they followed him there. Gyoji told the daimyo that they weren't registered, but they had won a qualifying round match. The daimyo then decreed that the turtles be entered in the contest. Splinter had doubts. He didn't think they were ready to compete yet, but he saw what happened as fate showing him that he was being an overprotective father. The daimyo then invoked his son, the Ultimate Ninja, to apologize to Splinter about his actions on Earth. After the apologies, Gyoji took Leo's broken swords to the palace's swordsmith so that he could compete. The Ultimate Ninja guided the turtles to their next arena through the pavilion of past champions. The turtles were amazed to see the statues of their sensei and his sensei side by side. Leo asked to stay behind to pay his respects to Hamato Yoshi, unaware that a few dark assassins were hiding and waiting for the right moment to kill him. Leo immediately defended himself, but when he found himself surrounded, he received timely help from Miyamoto Usagi, who happened to be a competitor that year. After surviving the attack and scaring off the assassins, the two competitors joined the tournament. Among the contestants were Traximus, one of the Triceraton gladiators they met on the Triceraton homeworld, Genosuke, also known as Gen, who came from Usagi's world, and two other important competitors, Aya and Claw. The contest began, and competitors were divided into pairs for their first matches. Thanks to a magic spell in the battle Nexus, anyone about to be defeated in battle will be transported away from the arena. Splinter, Usagi, Gen, Traximus, Aya, Claw, Leo, Mikey, and Raph made it to the next round, but Donatello lost in the first tier. But who sent those dark assassins to kill Leo? Well, you probably already guessed that it was all orchestrated by the Ultimate Ninja. And he did this out of impatience, despite the insistence of his mysterious counselor, the same presence that guided him to Earth. His counselor suggested securing the throne first, so Uesama could become the supreme daimyo of the Battle Nexus and master of the multiverse. Meanwhile, Tier 2 would involve a few hard, conflicting decisions. Leo was paired with Usagi, Mikey with Splinter, and Raph with Traximus. Considering that this was his son's turn to prove themselves in the competition, Splinter decided to forfeit. After all, as long as his sons fought with honor, they would honor their master. After a tight match, Raphael defeated Traximus, and Gen, Claw, and Aya made it to the next round. Not willing to wait, the Ultimate Ninja threw a poisoned dart at Leo in the middle of his match, dropping him almost unconscious in front of Usagi. Given the strange incident, Leo's match was nullified, awaiting further investigation. This left both contestants out of the competition. At the same time, the Ultimate Ninja sent his assassins to take the War Staff away from his father. After leaving him unconscious, he set up a trap to incriminate Splinter. With all evidence pointing at him, the Ultimate Ninja sent Splinter to the dungeon. With the daimyo requiring medical attention, no one would pay attention to Leo, who was then left to die at the healer's pavilion. Thankfully, Usagi found the source of his poisoning and used some herbs to start the healing process, despite Donatello's lack of trust. At the dungeon, the Ultimate Ninja revealed to Splinter that it was he who ordered the attack on the daimyo and poisoned Leo. Then his counselor revealed himself to be Draco, who was still seeking revenge after all those years. Meanwhile, the final round of the tournament was about to start. Given the disqualification of Usagi and Leo, it was decided that one of the competitors would try their luck to move on directly to the next match. The lucky contestant was Gen. Initially, Mikey was matched with Claw, who he had offended between fights. Using a little trick, he ended up with a different contestant, unaware that the other competitor was Raphael. This looked like the perfect opportunity for Raphael to prove himself the best warrior in his clan. However, Michelangelo had a way to get him all worked up about the possibility of losing to him. Using Raph's rage against him, Michelangelo won the match. This was terrible news for Raphael. Mikey now had a way to become a Battle Nexus champion, and there would be no way to shut him up. After the battle, Raph had a conversation with Traximus, who told him about the assassination attempt on the daimyo by a big rat. The two decided to join forces and free Master Splinter. At the same time, some dark assassins were sent to finish the job on the daimyo, using Leo's swords to make it look like he did it. Fortunately, Usagi and Donnie were able to stop them just in time. That is, until another wave of assassins surrounded them. To save the daimyo, a barely recovered Leo joined the fight to help them defeat the assassins. The last four competitors, Mikey, Gen, Kla, and Aya, started their semi-finals. Mikey won against Aya, and Kla defeated Gen. This meant that the final match will be between Mikey and Kla. Meanwhile, things weren't going well for the Ultimate Ninja. Draco's reason for helping him was to get his hands on the War Staff, but once the Ultimate Ninja had it in his hands, he started ignoring his requests. So Draco ended up taking it from his hands, as he was better prepared to control it. Traximus and Raphael snuck into the dungeons and freed Splinter, just in time for the final fight of the competition. But the final fight between Kla and Mikey got interrupted by the battle between Draco and the Ultimate Ninja. After seeing this, the daimyo got really worried. The War Staff drew power from the heart, and this was why it wasn't meant to be held by anyone. If true evil used it, it could unleash all kinds of horrors onto the multiverse. The daimyo tried to stop him, but then the War Staff turned from blue energy to red energy, creating a rift between worlds, a multi-dimensional wound that could destroy all it came in contact with. As everyone started trying to get their hands on the War Staff, the rift continued getting out of control, and it started absorbing everything around it, like Yoji. Seeing how the daimyo was about to put an end to this disaster, Draco got desperate and attacked the Ultimate Ninja. The two started fighting, disappearing into the rift. With all his sorrow and with the multiverse in danger, the daimyo closed the rift. When Mikey recovered a nunchuck that got stuck on the ground, he inadvertently knocked out Kla, becoming the champion of the Battle Nexus. The daimyo then gave the trophy to Mikey and sent them home. Of course, Mikey would start boasting about him being the champion of the multiverse, which would only continue to drive Raphael mad. As an epilogue for the season, the action then moved to the Triceraton homeworld, where Commander Mozar informed the Prime Leader that they had tracked the location of the Fugitoid to Earth. Prime Leader Zonramon then starts planning an invasion. These were the last episodes directed by Chuck Patton, who left the show because of creative differences. The episodes were written by Mike Ryan, Ben Townsend, and Marty Eisenberg. Apart from the main cast, this saga featured guest stars such as Mark Thompson as Draco and the Daimyo, Ted Lewis as the Ultimate Ninja, Jason Griffith as Miyamoto Usagi, F.B. Owens as Traximus, Eric Stewart as Gen and Dejin, and Pete Zarustica as Gyoji. According to Chuck Patton, the idea of Mikey being the most dangerous guy made the most sense to him, because he was always thinking outside of the box, and it was easy for others to underestimate him. That also made him the most resilient. This story and its characters were also used as the template for the Battle Nexus video games, and a wave from the toy line. Initially, the entity from the underground would have been connected to this story, something Peter Laird asked not to do, as he wanted to keep that side of the universe more mystical. Another change suggested by Peter was for the Turtles to collaborate to open the portal to the Battle Nexus, rather than simply fall into one. That's because the original portal was going to be a fountain in the park. For Peter, this was an opportunity to see the Turtles growing up. Draco would have initially lost to Yoshi, and 10 years later against Splinter, something Peter also rejected, as it would have made the flashback repetitive. This would have made sense when considering the events of the Ultimate Ninja, as both stories would have been about defeating a proxy champion when the other one became unavailable. Another interesting detail we know from the treatment Peter shared with Stan Sakai, the creator of Usagi Yojimbo, is that the story was originally intended to be told in 3 episodes. One significant accomplishment this story has is that it gave every character something to do, with character arcs coming and going from the competition plot. Another accomplishment is that it closed a season that explored the backstory of Shredder and Splinter in very innovative ways. In this way, the show delivered on its promise of constant change and the progressive increase in challenges for the Turtles. The story also elevated Master Splinter's status as one of the multiverse's former champions. His character arc would continue to be at the center of this universe's lore, starting a trend that would be repeated in most of the following adaptations. Another interesting aspect of this story is that it allowed the Turtles to use their skills for sportsmanship rather than simply for training and survival. For a show that wanted to emphasize the ninja side of the Turtles, this made a lot of sense. After all, martial arts are also a competitive sport. And finally, the story reintroduced Usagi Yojimbo in a more faithful tone than the previous adaptation did. Because of this, he would also receive a new action figure and would continue to make appearances throughout the series. As for Michelangelo, while his victory may have a few asterisks attached, he would later face Claw in a rematch, but that's a story for another day. What are your thoughts on this story and Mikey being the champion of the multiverse? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the sewers.